Hi everybody, I'm good to go and I hope you guys are too, because today we're continuing the story of Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Promise. And if you want to see part 1, make sure you check out right here. Is that the corner? I'm a little low energy in it, and I apologize in advance, but it's worth a watch. But let's not waste any more time and jump right into Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Promise, part 2. The book starts with the gang flying on Appa, and Katara and Aang are canoodling, which Sokka does not like. When he groans, Toph thinks it's because she's picking her nose. Then they fly over Toph's school and she says that she needs to get back. I'm not sure how she knows she's flying over her school because she's blind and all that, but pop off, I guess. Sokka begs her not to leave him alone with them because they're cringe, and Toph's like, bro, you could just come with me. Sokka comes to that realization too, and he's like, hey guys, I'm dipping. And Aang says that he just needs a second to land Appa. But Toph says that they're close enough to the ground where they can just jump. And she can tell because she can smell the trees. Oh, okay, yeah. She can smell the trees, kind of like how she can yell to see, right? There, I got a good look at you. That was a joke that me and my friend Marquise used to make all the time. This is when Toph grabs Sokka and jumps off of Appa and creates an earth slide so that they can land safely. When they start walking, Sokka asks her why she wanted to start her own school, and Toph says after training Aang, she felt fulfilled as a teacher. And after discovering metal bending, she knew that she had to share her knowledge with the world. Sokka isn't buying it though and says that she just loves telling people what to do. And she's like, yeah, you right. She also loves yelling because she very loudly asks her students where they're going. This is when we officially meets her students. Hotun, Penga, and Mu, the Dark One. And it seems like Penga has taken a liking to Sokka because she says his biceps are enormous, which I'm right there with him. Penga says that Sokka is her new boyfriend, and Sokka's like, yo, how old are you? And she's like, I'm 9, dog. And Sokka's like, huh, no. Hotun says that they weren't running away, but they were actually kicked out of the school. Toph asks by who, and we see a firebending teacher instructing a class. It gets interrupted, however, because Toph isn't having any of it and tells them to leave. The instructor burns the Bayfam flags and reveals a Fire Nation insignia. And he says that they left the school because of the movement plan. But because Zuko pulled out of the plan, they're reclaiming what's quote-unquote rightfully theirs. Toph's response is putting the Earth Kingdom insignia where it belongs. The instructor starts saying that she made up metal bending, and this is when Toph wraps a metal spear around his head. The teacher says bring it on, and Toph says bet, let's scrap, but Sokka comes in to break things up. He says the school should go to the person whose teachings are the most effective, which means his students will have to duke it out for the school. And Toph's students are not filled with confidence. Sokka says, how about a match to sit? Wait, what? Sokka says, how about a match to sit? What? He explains it's a competition to have the opponent sit down first. The Fire Nation kids are kind of bummed out by the plan, but Toph students love the idea. Sokka tells the instructor that the match will happen in 3 days. The instructor is like, why 3 days? Why can't they just scrap now? And Toph says, well, we can scrap right now if you want. And then he leaves like a little punk. He knows his place. Toph says she doesn't know about this, but Sokka says that your students should be able to take on some little kids. Then they do an impressive salute, which takes all the confidence away. Cutting back to Aang and Katara, we see them leaving Appa and telling him to go chill out for the night. They landed, they try to find a place to spend the night, but then they're interrupted by the official Avatar Aang fan club, the Ba Sing Se chapter to be exact, and Aang is super excited to meet them. Katara, on the other hand, not so much. Aang introduces her to the fan club, and they say it's an honor to meet the Avatar's first girlfriend. Katara's like, bitch, first? What the fuck you mean? We gotta go. And then the club members say that they can stay in the clubhouse for the night. They said that they modeled it after the Western Air Temple, which Aang is very excited to see. When they get there, it's a little underwhelming, I'll say, but they definitely tried their best. And they asked him if he likes it, and in true Aang fashion, he says that he loves it, and he heads inside. Now, let's cut back to some plot. We see Zuko and his father talking. Ozai asks Zuko if he remembers a family vacation they used to take to Ember Island. He reminisces about when Zuko was a kid, and he stopped a hawk from eating a turtle crab. Even then he had an affinity for the weak, Ozai says. But when he saved the crab, he felt bad for the hawk because he knew that he was gonna starve. And he didn't know whether to side with the hawk or the turtle crab. But before he could even make a decision, Zuko got washed away by a huge wave, and Ozai had to jump in himself to save him. Zuko, however, says he doesn't really give a shit about this and says that he came to ask for advice. Zuko says he only wanted to know how he could sleep with all the pressures of the throne. But Ozai says, I just told you. Zuko says he doesn't understand how old memories help, but Ozai says that he's tired and we're done here. We then cut back to the Earthbenders trying to bend metal, but it's not going so well. The students are getting discouraged, and Sokka asks if these are the most qualified students she could find, which, golly, Sokka. Toph says she didn't pick them, but the space bracelet did. Sokka then says he misses his space sword, which I'm not gonna lie. When I watched him drop space sword, I was devastated. I don't know about you guys, but I wanted to cry. She says whenever she went out in public, the bracelet shivers a little bit whenever she was around somebody who was super emotional. So Toph thought that could have meant that they were metal benders. She found Khotan in a ramen house where he accidentally ate half of a spider wasp. She found Penga at a marketplace arguing with a servant about wanting to buy shoes, and she met the Dark One, people watching at the corner. Sokka says that kind of makes sense because Katara found out that she was a waterbender whenever he would make her mad, which honestly, in true brother fashion, I make my sister mad all the time. Toph's problem is that finding students that way isn't perfect. I mean, what kind of person gets super emotional in public? To them, it's crazy people. And the worst part is, it's all just a theory. None of Toph's students have even been able to move the metal even an inch. Sokka says that he thinks he can help, but Toph says that he's not even a bender. How can he help? Sokka says that he can't bend the elements, but he can bend people's motivations. A motivational bender, if you will. Toph says that sounds like a stretch, which it is. But Sokka, he's determined. Sokka says, who led the invasion of the Day of the Black Sun? Sokka, the motivational bender. That's who. She just has to explain the basics and then leave the rest to him. And when Sokka takes the lead, things get a little bit weird. To become a true metal bender, you have to not only see the metal, but hear the metal, taste the metal, and be the metal. Sokka says to give it a shot and tells him to go into defending palm technique. You guys know the one. You guys know. He starts instructing the class and then he hawks some coins into the air for them to metal bend. And it does not go well. And everyone lets Sokka know. Cutting back to Aang and Katara, we see Aang showing off, and Katara is less than happy about this. Aang makes an air scooter for all of his fans, which I'm freaking jealous. I always wanted to ride that air scooter. This is interrupted by Hee-Wan. She wanted to introduce the co-president and co-founder to Aang. He asked how many co-presidents and co-founders there were, and this is where they all raised their hands. The new co-president Yi Li says it's an honor to meet him, and then shows off an airbending flute that she wants him to play. And then they bust it down! Katara has had enough of this bullshit and tells him they should probably leave. When they leave, Katara says, you sure had a lot of fun with all those floozies, didn't you? Aang says, yeah, they were really cool. He said for a moment there, he felt like he was actually home again, surrounded by his people. And then he even thanked Katara for letting him spend the night there. Well, this sucks the soul out of Katara, and she says not to thank her. Bro shut her down immediately. He knew for a fact that she was about to tear into him, and he decided to pull out the old, oh, I'm the last surviving member of my race card. You know the one. It works every time. Cutting back to Zuko, he went to go see his dad again, and he said that he was up all night thinking about what he said to him. Zuko says that he thinks that he understands his metaphor, that he was overwhelmed by the circumstances and he didn't know which side to pick, the hawk or its prey. He said that he should have sided with the hawk because it's strong and noble, like the Fire Nation. But Zuko says that he's already siding with the Fire Nation, but he still can't sleep. Ozai says, oh, buddy, you're half right. He says that he's right that he can't sleep because he can't make a choice because he can't tell what's right, but he's wrong about the hawk. Zuko asks if he's saying that he should have defended the weaker side, and Ozai says, there is no right or wrong when it comes to your choice. Who you defend deserves to be defended because that's who you want to be defended. By definition, you're right, just because you are the Fire Lord. Then they have a little tea party, and Zuko says that's not true. He says that right and wrong are bigger than him, and that he can find a solution with Aang. Ozai says that he heard about the meeting, and he says that he doesn't have any faith that the incompetent Earth King is going to be reasonable after the Fire Nation humiliated him already. He says he's probably not going to treat the colonials fairly, and he's probably going to send an army to crush them to restore whatever dignity they still has. Ozai says a true Fire Lord would protect Yu Dao furiously. Zuko says he wants to wait and see what Aang does, and Ozai's like, man, screw Aang. Don't you talk about my man like that. And what you gonna do if I don't? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yo, Jay's fake. Get out! Man, fuck that guy. What the fuck was that all about? Cutting back to Toph, we see her trying to get her students to metal bend again. And still, they are not able to move a single thing. Toph's so frustrated, she doesn't even yell at him anymore. Sokka asks if he can talk to her outside, and Toph tells him to take a break. Sokka says that he has an idea. He says that if the bracelet reacted when they were emotional before, then all they have to do is make them emotional again. And they already knew the triggers for two of them. For Khotan, it's Doom, and for Penga, it's Shoes. But Sokka doesn't know the trigger for the Dark One. Toph says his trigger is his own name, and Sokka begs to know what it is. When she tells him, Sokka's like, dang bro, that's rough. Sokka says he wants her to do something like how she did in the final battle on the airship, but they're gonna need a whole lot of metal. Well, Toph says that's not a problem because there's a whole bunker full of Fire Nation armor. And we learned that this armor is kid size, which means that that instructor that they're fighting with is making child soldiers, which is so cool. Sokka instructs her to metal bend the armor into something, and Sokka's impressed with Toph's skill. Toph's like, yeah, I'm just like the greatest earthbender in the world. We then cut back to Corey, the assassin girl from part 1, and she's training a bunch of earthbenders and firebenders. Corey hears a voice from the bushes, and it's her boyfriend, Sneer. He says that she's been missing their dates because of training, and she says she has to train her cousin so she can protect Yu Dao from the crowd. Then she pieces together that Sneer was leading the crowd with Smellery, and that does not make her happy. Sneer says that Corey has to choose if she's Fire Nation or Earth Kingdom. She says that she's both, and she chooses Yu Dao, and she tells Sneer that he needs to make a choice. Does she want to be with her or follow Smellery? Cutting back to Aang and Katara, we see that they made it back to the Earth King, and he's super excited to see them. He thanks them for all the help that they've been doing with all the removal of the colonies, and they explain why they're there. The Earth King realizes that Zuko still doesn't support the plan. Aang says that they're on the Earth King's side and that Fire Nation people should go, but Katara says that Zuko has legitimate concerns about the colonies, and they need to sit down and work through their options. And the Earth King seems troubled by what they said. Cutting back to Toph and Sokka, we see them in this forest canyon thing camping, and they're all chilling. That is until the Dark One asks where Toph is. Sokka changes the subject and asks them if they remember the boar banner that used to be in the training room. He says that banner was used to placate the winged boar spirit. They all start getting scared, and he says it's the spirit of doom and eater of footwear. This freaks him out even more, and suddenly a giant boar coming out of the woods, and he starts gobbling up the shoes. They all start panicking, well, except for the Dark One, who sees right through it. The Dark One says that he knows that it's Toph, and she says, well played, the Dark One. Or should I say, Moochie Goochie La Poochie the Third? Sokka tries to get them to metal bend, but they're all kind of laid out. Cutting back to Aang and Katara, we see them chowing down at the Earth King's table. The Earth King comes out and he says that he thought about the situation, and he says they're not going to like what he has to say. The Earth King says that he was weak his entire life and he doesn't want to be weak anymore. He says that Zuko lied about seeing the plan through, so why should he trust him when it comes to this? Then the Earth King says he's going to order his general to lead troops to force them out of Yu Dao. Aang and Katara said that's basically a declaration of war, but the Earth King's mind is made up, and he said those citizens need to leave peacefully or face the consequences. Cutting back to Toph, we see Sokka trying to cheer her up, and Toph asks him if he ever thinks about metal. She says that metal is just earth that's just been purified and refined, or that's gone through pressure and pain. She said she discovered it when she was kidnapped by her old teachers. You know, there's no way you don't remember that. But when she was in a cell, all she could think about was her parents trying to force her to be something that she's not. And in that moment, all she felt was pressure and pain. So when she brought her students, she expected them to metal bend. She expected them to be something that they're not. And she asked how is she any different from her parents. She says maybe the school is a way to pass the pain on to somebody else. Toph then says that when the firebending instructor comes back tomorrow, that she's going to sit down and give the school back to him. We then cut back to Aang and Katara, and they're rushing to Yu Dao. They're going to tell the Fire Nation colonists that they need to evacuate before the Earth Kingdom forces get there. Katara says they might refuse because they won't want to leave their homes. Aang says that the Earth King is right, not about the whole army thing, but about Zuko breaking his promise. We then see an Avatar fangirl eavesdropping, and she hears the whole thing, and she sends a messenger bird to the Yu Dao chapter saying that the Avatar needs their help. Cutting back to Toph, we see it's the next day and the instructor shows up for the competition, and he's here to kick some ass. Toph begins to surrender, and her students rush in and stop her. And we see the coins come off the stands and hit Toph right in her bottom. And she realizes, Ho Ton done metal bending. Toph starts congratulating him, and they're interrupted by the Fire Nation kids attacking. Toph students make quick work of them, however, because they beat the crap out of them with some coins. They then gang up on the instructor and knock him on his ass, and then he leaves in defeat. And Sokka congratulates them, and they tell Toph that they overheard her talking to Sokka last night. And she says she doesn't understand because she didn't say anything positive about them. But they tell her that nobody's ever thought more of them than just a wimp, or a spoiled brat, or a tall, mysterious hunk. I relate to you, Uchi Poochie, my nigga. Toph sheds tears, and she's more motivated than ever. And she starts the school back up again. Cutting back to Zuko, we see him at his throne, and he's trying to adjust the settings on his infinity fireplace. Then Mei suddenly appears, and she says that she knows that he's been secretly seeing his dad. He asks her who told her, and she's like, bro, you didn't tell me. And because he's been keeping so many secrets from her, she decides that she doesn't want to be with him anymore. He begs her to come back. He even orders her to come back, but it doesn't work. And when Zuko is reeling from the breakup, Suki comes over and says it's her fault. She just wanted her to talk to him, not to break up with him. He asked her how she knew, and she says that she's been following him the last couple of times he visited. They just want to know if they could do anything to help him, because the Kyoshi warriors are worried about him. That Suki is worried about him. They're interrupted by Zuko's general, and he says they got a message from the spies that he sent to the Earth Kingdom, and his suspicions were confirmed, and the Earth King is marching his army towards Yudao as we speak. Ozai was right, and we see the two opposing forces heading towards Yudao. And that is where part 2 ends. And I gotta say, not a lot happened. It feels like a filler episode, except it's only 3 books. I do not like, where is Iroh? Is he dead? Is he like, let me know in the comments if he's dead, like at this point, because what the fuck? That makes me so sad. But that's all I got for you guys. If you guys like what you saw, make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more good to go content. If there's any other comic book content you want me to cover, just let me know down in the comments below and I will cover it all day, every day. But I'll see you guys in the next one. And make sure you tell your family that you love them. Bye-bye now.